delve into a reflection that could change your perspective on love and relationships. Even if you've read books, watched videos, and repeated affirmations, a true understanding of love may still elude you. Today we're not introducing theories, but a key concept revealed by Carl Jung that has the potential to transform your perception of yourself and others. Are you ready to discover this key? If this topic resonates with you, perhaps deep down you suspect there's a deeper layer of knowledge than simply accepting shadows or balancing energies. It's about integrating these realizations into everyday life and achieving concrete changes, and that's what you can learn today. By the end of this reflection, you'll not only understand why it's been difficult for you to experience love so far, but you'll also gain a clear and practical strategy for transforming your relationship with yourself and others. This isn't about theory, it's about action. Your relationships are not random. What attracts or repels you in others is often a mirror of your own unresolved inner conflicts. Think about the person who last evoked strong emotions in you, whether it was attraction or frustration. They didn't appear in your life by chance. Perhaps you're drawn to people who make you feel insecure, or you're annoyed by those who exhibit qualities you can't accept in yourself. Today you can learn to use this mirror to identify internal aspects that are waiting for attention and healing. Until you do, you may continue to seek love in the wrong places. The key question isn't why someone behaves a certain way, but what does this situation reveal about myself? The law of the mirror, as it manifests in human relationships, is a phenomenon far deeper and more multifaceted than it seems at first glance. When someone evokes a storm of strong emotions in you, it may be a reflection of your own shadow side. Pay attention to recurring patterns in your relationships. Are you attracted to the same type of people? Or conversely, are there those you diligently avoid? Both are important signals indicating what's hidden inside you. The feelings you have for others, whether strong attraction or sharp rejection, are two sides of the same coin. They reveal something important about yourself, and realizing this will allow you to truly love yourself and those around you. If someone irresistibly attracts you, ask yourself, what qualities in that person evoke admiration in you? Perhaps these are traits that you have not yet experienced or developed in yourself. For example, you may be attracted to spontaneity in another person because your own life is too controlled and structured. The same applies to rejection. What exactly in another person causes you dislike? It is likely that you possess the same trait but suppress it or do not want to notice it. Perhaps you are annoyed by someone's arrogance because you yourself struggle with a hidden sense of superiority that you do not dare to admit. Such self-knowledge has enormous power but requires absolute honesty with oneself. It is necessary to be prepared to see those sides of your personality that you have previously hidden, because it is in this awareness that true healing begins. Often those who challenge us the most paradoxically become our best teachers. Individuals who can upset us can reveal deep wounds that are still waiting to heal. Such encounters are not mere coincidence but an indicator of the direction of personal growth. These people function as karmic mirrors reflecting hidden aspects of our subconscious. Until we realize this, we will repeatedly attract similar relationships until we learn from them. It's important to realize that just as others hold up a mirror to us, we reflect them. The reactions of those around us are often a projection of our own internal conflicts. With this understanding, we can respond with greater compassion and calm instead of adopting a defensive or offensive stance. This awareness has the potential to transform not only our relationships, but our entire lives. Once we realize that the external world is merely a reflection of our internal state, true transformation can begin, originating from within ourselves. The goal of working on oneself is not only to recognize patterns, but also to actively transform them. When we understand which part of ourself is reflected in a difficult relationship, we can consciously focus on healing and integrating those aspects that are weakened or underdeveloped. As this work progresses, our relationships naturally transform. This integration process occurs gradually, so we should not expect immediate results. It is important to observe your reactions with the curiosity of a researcher, without condemnation, and with a sincere interest in self-knowledge. Over time, it becomes clear that people who previously evoked strong emotions lose their ability to influence. The healthiest and most balanced relationships develop when an individual invests in inner growth. People will start coming into your life who mirror healed and integrated aspects of your personality, not unprocessed wounds. The search for missing pieces of yourself in others will give way to building connections based on mutual wholeness. True love becomes attainable on the path of self-discovery. Love that springs from inner completeness, not from lack, transforms relationships into a space for mutual growth and not into a trap of emotional dependence. No one is needed to fill an inner void because the individual is self-sufficient. The part of the personality that is rejected undermines relationships. True love is impossible without accepting all aspects of oneself. It is important to reflect on what one dislikes about oneself and what one hides from others. This shadow, until integrated, leads to projecting insecurities onto others. For example, if one is bothered by the arrogance of others, it may be because one is suppressing the fear of one's own arrogant behavior. Or if one is attracted to people who make one feel inferior, it may be a reflection of a deep sense of inadequacy. Shadow integration is not about achieving perfection, but about achieving wholeness, because true love and acceptance are only possible when all parts of the personality are present. Accepting the shadow includes not only negative traits, but also hidden abilities that have not yet been discovered. Rejecting certain parts of oneself leads to internal conflict and building an invisible wall that prevents developing the deep relationships that one most desires. This internal division leads to seeking in others what is not accepted in oneself. Every harsh judgment of someone else is a mirror. The trait that bothers one the most suggests that there is something in the personality that has not yet been accepted. Observing the strongest reactions reveals the most important life lessons. Perhaps one is irritated by the vulnerability of others because one fears one's own fragility, or annoyed by excessive ambition because one does not allow oneself to desire success and recognition. One's shadow is also projected into one's relationships with others, often leading us to be attracted to people who embody the qualities we have suppressed in ourselves. If one is irresistibly fascinated by dominant personalities, it is worth considering whether a hidden part of oneself longs for a greater degree of power and self-assertion. If someone repeatedly seeks out partners who need help, it is possible that they subconsciously crave care and attention. Relationship sabotage can manifest subtly but persistently. Out of fear of abandonment, one may unconsciously decide to end the relationship first to avoid potential pain. Fear of control can lead to rejecting even reasonable and loving suggestions. These patterns of behavior are not random, but represent unconscious defense mechanisms of the shadow. The process of shadow integration requires considerable courage. The first step is to be willing to see one's shadow without condemnation. Each time one feels a strong aversion to a certain person, one should reflect on where one finds similar traits in oneself. The goal is not blame, but deeper self-awareness. Shadow integration also involves expressing suppressed aspects of the personality in a safe environment. If one has suppressed their creativity, they should find a space where they can freely express it. If one has denied oneself deeper feelings, one should allow oneself to be vulnerable before people they trust. Over time, these previously rejected parts of the self become internal sources of strength, not obstacles. An effective exercise can be writing a letter to your shadow. One should acknowledge its existence, thank it for protection, and express a desire to accept it with love into one's life. This internal dialogue can be the first step towards deep reconciliation with oneself. The beauty of this process lies in the paradoxical truth. By accepting the dark sides, the personality becomes brighter. By befriending imperfections, one becomes more authentic. And this authenticity opens the way to genuine and deep connection with others. The deepest and most valuable bonds arise when two souls meet in the fullness of their being, revealing both light and dark sides without trying to hide or suppress anything. In such a connection, there is no longer a need to seek in the other a complement to one's own shortcomings, for each individual is complete in themselves. Fears and insecurities do not translate into the partner's behavior because they have been accepted as an integral part of oneself. Relationships serve not only for joy and satisfaction, but above all, for personal growth. Every conflict, obstacle, or disappointment becomes an opportunity for deeper self-discovery. In this process, it is revealed that love is not the ultimate goal, but rather a path to understanding oneself. Until this penetrates consciousness, one repeatedly stumbles upon the same mistakes. Love thus becomes an instrument of self-discovery and development, not an unattainable illusion that only breeds frustration. If love is perceived only as a source of happiness and comfort, its deep transformational potential is missed. Relationships are the most intense life lessons, the most faithful mirrors in which our true selves are reflected. Everyone who enters life brings a certain lesson with them, and if this lesson is not understood, the situation repeats itself with different faces, but with the same core problem. Recurring patterns in relationships are not accidental. Looking back on one's love life, one can often recognize certain elements that connect seemingly disparate experiences. It may be that a person constantly attracts emotionally unavailable individuals or finds themselves in the role of rescuer. These patterns call for self-reflection and suggest the existence of inner wounds that are waiting to heal. Attachment theory suggests that experiences from early childhood shape behavioral patterns that repeat in adulthood. If an individual learned in childhood that love is unpredictable, they will seek out such relationships in adulthood, not because they are beneficial, but because they are familiar. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward change. The true meaning of romantic love is not merely achieving happiness, although happiness can be a pleasant side effect. The main purpose of love is to reveal those aspects of personality that remain hidden from the outside world. In the intimate environment of a relationship, deeply hidden fears, defense mechanisms, and unspoken desires come to the surface. When you come into conflict with your partner, the most important question is not who is right, but what it says about yourself. Perhaps that seemingly innocent remark that upset you so much actually touches on deeply rooted insecurities within you. Or perhaps your excessive desire for control masks a fear of loneliness that weighs on you. These realizations are invaluable for those who desire true personal growth and want to move forward. Your strongest attraction to another person carries an important message. We are often fascinated by people who embody qualities that we ourselves wish to develop. If you are deeply charmed by someone's independence, it is possible that you too desire more freedom and autonomy in your life. If you are fascinated by someone's creativity and artistic expression, perhaps there is a suppressed artist within you who longs to finally express themselves. Irresistible attraction is like a map that shows the way to your untapped potential. Even disappointment in love, however painful, holds enormous potential for personal growth. When a relationship ends, you face a crucial choice. Either blame the other person and repeat old mistakes, or look in the mirror and ask yourself what you can learn from this experience. Your reaction to loss will determine whether this experience embitters you or enriches and strengthens you. True love does not consist of seeking perfection in another person, but in mutual growth and support. Two people take responsibility not only for their own happiness, but also for their shared development. In such a relationship, every challenge becomes an opportunity to overcome internal limitations and to heal together. This attitude, paradoxically, leads to the deepest and longest-lasting happiness. You are no longer dependent on ideal circumstances or a perfect partner. You find satisfaction in the way the other person mirrors you and helps you grow. Transformation occurs when an individual stops lamenting the fact that they constantly choose inappropriate partners and begins to ask themselves why this is the case. This shift in thinking returns control of the situation to the person. They are no longer a victim of fate or the decisions of others, but become a conscious creator of their own relationship experiences. Conceiving of love as a path to personal development requires a considerable amount of courage. An individual must be prepared to face unpleasant truths, challenge ingrained beliefs, and abandon self-deceptive ideas that no longer serve them. The reward for this effort, however, is more authentic relationships, deeper self-knowledge, and the ability to love not out of compulsion, but out of free will. If someone repeatedly finds themselves in the same relationship situations, the answer to this condition lies in their subconscious. These seemingly endless patterns of behavior are not mere coincidence, but signal that deep emotional wounds are waiting to heal. If individuals are attracted to people who cause them pain, it means that old emotional wounds require attention. Similarly, if they are constantly looking for a partner to empower them, it may mean that there is a part within them that does not feel worthy enough. It is therefore essential to learn to recognize these patterns and break out of the vicious cycle so that individuals can become healthier and build more conscious relationships. Until they succeed, they will continue to attract people who do not truly fulfill them. Toxic relationship patterns manifest as invisible spirals that affect an individual's life with remarkable regularity. Partners change, but the basic dynamics remain unchanged. This is not a fateful test or a mere coincidence, but a manifestation of deeply ingrained programs in the subconscious. These automatic mechanisms influence decision-making, often without conscious awareness. The roots of these habits usually go back to childhood, when the first ideas about love and interpersonal relationships were formed. If an individual grew up in an environment where love was conditional on performance, they will instinctively seek constant validation in adulthood. If love was accompanied by criticism, they are likely to feel safe only in relationships with elements of conflict. Often, an individual feels safe in familiar situations, even if they are painful. That's why many people leave a toxic relationship only to find themselves in the same pattern with another person shortly after. The first step to change is developing self-awareness. It's necessary to look at past relationships with detachment, as if watching a movie. What patterns are repeating? Does the individual repeatedly feel abandoned? Are they attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable? Do they lose themselves in the relationship? These recurring situations are not random, but point to emotional wounds. Behind every toxic relationship lies a deeply rooted belief system. If an individual repeatedly attracts unfaithful partners, they may subconsciously believe they don't deserve fidelity. If they feel controlled in a relationship, it may hide a belief that they are not capable of managing their own life independently. These subconscious beliefs act as invisible magnets, constantly attracting situations that confirm them. Neuroscience shows that these patterns exist not only on a psychological level, but are also anchored in the brain. Repetition strengthens neural pathways, and if an individual experiences the same relationships long-term, their brain gets used to it as something normal. It's necessary to consciously interrupt these cycles, which requires attention and creating new, contrasting experiences. An effective exercise is to recognize emotional triggers, situations that provoke disproportionate reactions. For example, a slight delay from a partner may trigger an intense feeling of abandonment, or an innocent comment about appearance may trigger deep insecurity. These triggers are windows to the deepest wounds. Healing begins with taking responsibility for one's own patterns. This doesn't mean blaming oneself, but rather acknowledging one's role in maintaining these cycles. As long as an individual blames others or remains in the role of victim, they remain trapped in the same repeating patterns. Real change begins when they realize they are the conscious creator of their own life. Reconnecting with one's own body appears to be a key element in the process of overcoming toxic behavior patterns. Dependence on relationships exhibits similar traits to other forms of addiction, with the individual's body sending physical signals even before a relapse into habitual behavior models occurs. Therefore, it's essential to pay attention to bodily sensations, which may include excitement, an illusory sense of security, or familiar comfort. Consciously observing these feelings allows an individual to learn to react differently, opening the way to new, healthier responses. An important step on this journey is setting clear and healthy boundaries, not only towards others but also towards oneself. If an individual tends to lose themselves in a relationship, it's helpful to create habits that help them stay in touch with themselves. In cases where an individual repeatedly attracts narcissistic personalities, it's crucial to define in advance the behavior they are no longer willing to tolerate. Setting boundaries, thus becomes an expression of self-love and represents the first step in breaking old, destructive patterns. True transformation occurs when an individual dares to make a different decision, even if it may initially seem unpleasant or unfamiliar. For individuals accustomed to drama and emotional roller coasters, a calm and stable relationship may initially seem boring. However, this feeling of irritation is completely normal, as the brain is creating new neural pathways and learning to experience closeness and love in a new way. If an individual dedicates themselves to this work fully, their subconscious wounds will no longer have a dominant influence on their decision-making. Instead, they will be able to consciously choose healthier, deeper and fuller relationships. The key to breaking repeating patterns is not trying to change the other person, but learning to love oneself in a different way. It's important to realize that breaking old patterns is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. There may be times when an individual reverts to old patterns, but each time they recognize this cycle and consciously choose differently, they strengthen their new reality. The neuroplasticity of the brain, its ability to change, is a key ally in this process. With each conscious decision, an individual literally reshapes the structure of their brain. The real goal is not to achieve perfection in relationships, but to gain awareness that gives freedom of choice. When an individual is no longer controlled by their subconscious programs, they can create relationships that reflect their current self, not wounds from the past. Such love no longer comes from lack or dependence, but from wholeness and freedom. True love cannot be found, but must be created through unconditional love for oneself. Love thus does not become something we seek from the outside, but becomes what we are. This realization has transformative potential, because until an individual understands it, they will seek outside for something that can only be found within themselves. Love is not something to be given or received. Love is something an individual is. If one lives in this state, their relationships are no longer a source of suffering, but a natural expression of their inner fulfillment. Love is not a destination, but a journey. The upbringing we receive often cultivates the belief that love is something external, a force that will seek us out if we are lucky. This romantic concept, however charming it may seem, leads us to passivity and dependence. We expect someone to choose to see and love us, but this view misinterprets the true nature of love. True love springs from within us as an inexhaustible source. It's not something we have to get from others. As long as we depend on external sources to experience love, we will constantly feel lacking, like a cracked vessel that never fills. Love that comes from the outside is always conditional and has its limits. The real transformation comes when we realize that we ourselves are the main source of love. There is no need to ask permission to love ourselves, nor to achieve anything to deserve it. Self-love is not a reward for perfection, but our natural right, a state that belongs to us. When we break down the walls we have built around ourselves, practicing unconditional self-love becomes a revolutionary act in a world that has taught us that our worth depends on our performance, appearance, or achievements. It means treating ourselves with respect, even in times of failure, as well as in moments of triumph. Look at yourself with the same warmth and care you would give to a close friend, recognizing your inner worth, which does not depend on the approval of others. As these good feelings toward yourself strengthen, your relationships with the outside world will transform. This will bring you closer to other people, not out of a sense of inadequacy or inner emptiness, but out of a sense of self-sufficiency. You will stop looking for what you lack in others and share the wealth you already possess. And here is the paradox. By letting go of the desperate search for love, you will begin to truly feel it in your life. Your relationships will cease to be an abyss that needs filling and will become a space for mutual development. You will not look for someone to make you happy, but will share the happiness you have already created within yourself. You will not expect someone to heal your wounds, although together you can heal. You will not depend on the recognition of others to realize your worth, but will value the respect and love that others give you. The transformation of the inner world inevitably leads to changes in your social circle. A person driven by a sense of inner inadequacy unconsciously attracts into their life those who reflect their own emotional wounds. Conversely, a person living in harmony with themselves attracts people who resonate with their self-love and sense of wholeness. This is the fundamental difference between relationships built on unhealthy dependence and a deep, sincere connection. It is important to understand that true self-love has nothing to do with narcissism. In fact, narcissism is just a mask behind which hide deep insecurity and a sense of inner emptiness, which a person desperately tries to fill by constantly seeking external approval. Genuine self-love is accepting one's human nature in its entirety, with all its strengths and weaknesses. This is what allows you to see other people more clearly, with compassion and understanding, without projecting your own unmet needs onto them. One of the most powerful tools on the path to self-discovery is the practice of active love and compassion for yourself. When difficult emotions arise, such as fear, sadness, anger, or shame, don't try to suppress them or condemn yourself for their appearance. Instead, accept them and allow them to be. It is important to remember that these emotions are not mistakes to be corrected, but an integral part of the human experience. Such radical self-acceptance can transform not only your inner world, but also your relationships with others. Love is not a final destination that can be reached once, but a daily practice that requires conscious effort. On this path, difficulties are inevitable, and there will be moments when loving yourself seems like an impossible task. Old, familiar patterns of behavior may return. However, with each conscious decision, with each step taken towards self-love, a person gains the opportunity to return to their true essence. And herein lies the greatest paradox. When a person stops looking for love outside, they discover that it has always been inside them, like a fish desperately searching for the ocean, not realizing that it is already swimming in it. Everyone lives in an ocean of love. They just need to learn to recognize it. The goal isn't to find love, but to allow it to manifest and express it. First and foremost, towards yourself, and then this love will naturally fill everything around you. This is precisely the truth that sages have been trying to convey to humanity for centuries. When a person begins to live based on this inner love, every relationship, every encounter, every moment of life becomes an expression of this profound